All right, last talk of the day. This is Marlon and Devin Cleary from Hexed BSides. It operates somewhere between root access and creative anarchy. They break things ethically, make things digitally, and blur the lines between exploit and expression, one limit of code and one pixel at a time. So, this is our last talk.
Thanks all for coming. We're going to start this off with this quick pop quiz. I'm just curious, anybody here familiar with a game called Skyrim? Okay, cool. But have you played?
You're finally awake.
Yeah. Took a while, but yes, finally awake.
You were trying to cross the border, right?
Yeah, for sure. Now you played Skyrim with mods. Okay, so we're familiar with some mods. Okay.
Yeah, I just leveled my dragons, turned into Thomas the Tank Engine.
That's right. So as long as you have a little knowledge about like reverse shells and a C2 beacon, we'll have fun on this talk. So this is our introductory slide, and this is where we go through and do our introductions, of course, but we kind of thought it'd be fun to kind of portray ourselves as like Skyrim characters, mod characters, but it ended up looking like one of those bad Rolex novel book covers instead. So maybe that should have been like the pop quiz. What would you call this horrible book? As you mentioned, my name is Devin Cleary. My handle is Aromac. And together we have a small website, hexbeheads.com, where we try to do fun, small, like hacking projects. And this one's been one of our favorites. On the last slide, we'll go ahead and give you like a QR link and a link to our website. So if you want to refer back to these slides at any time, you'll have that as a resource. So what I would like to do now is I'm going to hand the floor over to Isni here, and she's going to go ahead and get us started. And I'm just going to like stand back here awkwardly,
right.
over your shoulder.
Yeah.
And then I'll be back on later to kind of wrap things up here. So we'll go ahead and floor yours.
So, my name is Marlon, also known as Isni. I'm the other half of this. And what we are going to do today, we're going to do like a little bit of a quest line. So, you guys are going to go with us into this quest. We're going to have a high-level overview of how do we come about this project, the progress that we made until we get a C2 beacon. So, let's go ahead. So, if you have played Skyrim before like I did, this was the 11th playthrough of it, and I was browsing to Nexus mods when suddenly this little thing came up. And I was like, okay, well, virus scan safe to use, that's kind of interesting. So I needed to find out how exactly does this work, right? If we can have a malicious mod somehow, what would that look like? So we started planning ahead, because otherwise I would never go ahead and get the game going until I figured this out, because now I'm freaking out if something actually is malicious in there. So we went ahead and got going. So we wanted to find out what are mods, and we already knew it's something that alters the video game. It can provide you with quests, characters, better graphics, like you can see in that picture there. But it's also developed by other third-party players and developed by other people. So it was really interesting for us to see, okay, maybe something malicious can come through this. So if you played Skyrim before, you know that there's two ways to get mods into the game. You have Creation Kit, which was released by Bethesda. It also have a very restrictive platform, so it requires Papyrus to be developed, the mods. And then you have SKAC, which probably most of us actually been using. I'm included, I'm guilty of that. So SKAC is community made. It has a less restricted platform to get mods created, and it uses C++ for the coding development. So once we figured that out, we decided, okay, we can go ahead and get, can we actually go ahead and summon a hack from Tamriel into our terminal? And the answer is yes. We actually can do that. So we needed to figure it out. How can we make our code to execute locally and then go ahead and maybe have a C2 beacon also. And since we're talking about C2 beacons, there's nothing more fitting than Meridia's beacon for this journey. So if you have played obviously before, the player needs to hit level 12 before you find the actual beacon, and then you'll hear like a loud voice saying, "A new hands touches the beacon," and it kind of freak you out. So we needed to find out. We're just gonna go ahead and do Meridia's beacon for this one. So now that we have what is our quest, what we're going to do, we needed to find out what do we need to make this happen. So from there, we obviously need the Skyrim game. We're going to use SKC because we're going to use the C++ on it. We're going to do the VCPKG, which is a package manager. We use a Visual Community Studio. We also need a template login script, which I'll tell you guys what that does in a minute. And then our proof of concepts that are also going to be showing up in our slides so you guys can tinker with it. And lastly, our C2 framework. In this case, we use Havoc for this one. Alright, so we have all our items required. Let's go ahead and just get something going. So in this case, we're trying to have a local code execution, and we just started simple. We just wanted to see if call can come up if I go into Whiterun and hit somebody over the head. Yeah. So this is how that looks like. So here I am, and I'm just gonna walk this happy camper with his chicken, and then I got my calculator coming up. So this was a really good point for us because it's like, okay, this is actually working. Now that we have a calculator, we know we can do pretty much anything else after that. So what we needed is to find out the beacon ID. So instead of us trying to get our player to level 12, we needed to figure it out. Can we just go ahead and find a way to hack ourselves so we don't have to wait until Meridia's beacon to come up on a random loop? So we went down finding this huge rabbit hole about base IDs and form IDs. So the Meridia's beacon has a form ID identifier. It's a hexadecimal. I'm gonna put it here bigger because I wear glasses. And this form ID is unique identifier for each of the items within the game. So NPCs, dragons, everything has its unique identifier. This matters because since we're not going to go loot everything, we just needed to have a quick way of spawning the beacon to us. So that's what we did right here. Now, the next part was the logging technique. So we needed to find out the base ID, which is the identifier for the prototype object. So it's important to find out what that base ID is so we can use it throughout the rest of our proof of concepts. Now, in this screenshot right here, you see that we are going to be able to create an event within the game. It's going to trigger that base ID, and we're going to go ahead and look at it in our logs. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys. So we are going to go ahead and open the command console. We're going to write player plays at me for E6. That's going to spawn the beacon in us, and we're going to go ahead and pick it up. We're going to exit the game, and then we're going to go into our directory, go into our game file, open up our logs, and then we're going to go ahead and find the base ID that was activated when we picked up the Meridia's beacon. So now I'll give the floor to Aroma to take us the rest of the journey.
Thank you, Isney, for setting us up and getting us started. All right, cool. So the next thing we're looking into is how do we build on top of this to start getting the reverse shell, the C2 beacon, the stuff the attacker would want to do, right? So here we got another picture of some source code. There's plenty of reverse shell examples out on the web. Maybe see some like web shells or other source code that gives you where you plug in your IP address as the attacker and your port number that you're listening on. And that's what we see in that first red box there. Below that is just some of the Skyrim data that goes through and communicates with the game. And the second red box that we see here is just a simple if condition. So it's basically all that says is if the player picks up an item that matches this ID, which we just found out is the Meridia's beacon ID, execute the following code, which is reverse shell, right? So we'll see this in action. We see a listener set up here, 48,000. We've compiled the DLL, we threw it into our mods folder for Skyrim. We follow the exact same steps. We spawn the beacon item, so we're not waiting until we're level 12 to find it. Pick it up, switch back to the other VM that has our listener, and there's our reverse shell. So this would call back to the attacker. They do a quick check for the IP address so you can see on the BG info in the background that it matches. So the attacker at this point has successfully gained a reverse shell by the player picking up Meridia's beacon in the game. That was really cool. But we're not quite done yet because how much fun would it be to pick up the beacon item and get a C2 beacon, right? That's the whole goal of this thing. So how do we take this further? So we were really happy to get this far again. It's a step further than getting the calculator from the first step. Now we've got the reverse shell. How do we get a C2 beacon? We chose Havoc as our C2 framework. It's a pretty popular one. And the way that Havoc works is we were able to generate a .bin file, which is our agent, our C2 beacon agent. But if you ever catted out or tried to read like a compiled file, any kind of text editor or anything, it's that gibberish that you see in the top image. Like there's no use for it for us in this format. So how do we change that format? How do we get into something that we can actually stuff into our source code and use? And that's where this command line tool XXD comes in. We were able to feed it the .bin file, and it spit out shellcode for us. Okay, I know how to use shellcode. So we were able to change our template up a little bit, as seen in the bottom, and you can see in the red box there where we would put in our shellcode to execute. So we went from a compiled .bin file, which is no good for us, converted it with XXD into the shellcode that we now know how to use and put into our template. So here I've got a VM again running Skyrim, and we're going to go ahead and test this out. We'll pick up Meridia's beacon, spawning in the console again, switch back to Havoc, and we've got to call back an agent from that target. We've got the IP address. Now here I'm switching over to another VM. I actually got 3 of them running with Skyrim all in between. That's why some of the graphics look terrible on this, but I run over this area because it's a nice flat spot where the beacon doesn't just roll away on the ground. Happened to me a couple times while trying to recording is a hard thing. I do the same thing. I use the console command, I spawn the beacon, I switch back to Havoc. Now I have 2 agents. I've got 1 more VM running Skyrim, so we're going to switch to that. And this is going to be the exact same thing. He's going to run over to an area where he can open up the console command, spawn the Meridia's beacon, pick it up, and we'll get the 3rd callback through Havoc when I switch back to that virtual machine. Bam. All 3 targets, all the same mod, pick up the Meridia's beacon, and Havoc callback. I'm going through the IP addresses so you can see it through the VMs that they all match from the callback agents. Sweet. So that's all 3 targets. We have finally accomplished what we intended to do all the way through, from calculator to reverse shell to C2 beacon through Havoc. But we had some free time, so we wanted to go a little bit further and see if we could make this a little crazier.
No.
Yeah. So we thought about this for a while, and you know, there is a mod out there called Skyrim Together. And if you're familiar with this, what this does is this introduces multiplayer into Skyrim. You know where this is going, right?
I think I'm starting to see where this is going.
So we thought, like, what if we could take Skyrim Together and combine it with our mod to just like further the chaos? This sounds awesome. So here in this video, we've got a blank slate with Havoc, I'm going to go through and show you between the 3 different VMs that you see the tabs up top. I've got 3 Dragonborn heroes, people here, all in the same town. And I'm switching through the 3 VMs so you can see that I have control of all 3 players. So they're all grouped up in here. So with this guy, I'm going to follow the same pattern. I'm going to spawn the Meridia's beacon, but this time they're going to go straight into his inventory and not on the ground. I'm going to have him walk into a random barrel, and he's going to put in the beacons, 2 beacons. He's going to put in 2 beacons into this barrel. And he's going to back out. I'm going to switch over to the other guy, the second guy in this world, and he's going to walk over to that barrel, and he's going to pick up 1 of those Meridia beacons. He'll back out, show his inventory to show that he has it, and then finally, switch over to the third guy. Have him do the same thing. He's going to walk over to that beacon, or I'm sorry, that barrel, pick up the beacon, walk backwards, open up his inventory, he's got it. What's going to happen when we switch over to Happy? We have all 3 beacons called back to our Havoc server. They have full control of the computer from there. Okay, that's cool. So now we've gone even further and set up our own like multiplayer server with Skyrim and was able to get all the callbacks from there. So that was pretty cool. We're pretty happy with that. Again, we had a little more time. So we thought, well, what if we want to change the condition a little bit? We kind of wanted to learn how like SKSE interfaces with the game and what else can we do with this. So to kind of show a different example, we took a different direction. In this logic, the if statement in the first box, this says when the player runs out of health. So instead of picking up Meridia's beacon as a condition, this is when the player dies. So that's changed. The bigger box was an experiment of what if we just run a bunch of like enumeration commands on the host, and then we want that to feed into like a text file, and then we're going to send that text file to a remote host. So as like an attacker, maybe I don't want remote code execution, maybe it's like a reverse shell, maybe it's too obvious. So what if I just want to enumerate your system and enumerate your home network, and then give me that information on my server that I'm running remotely? So in this video, we have an example. In the bottom right-hand corner, Dragonborn dude's going to die, and what we're looking for in the top left corner is you'll see a file pop up in that little window for the file explorer there. That just popped up there. So the game will continue on as if nothing happened. And then what we're going to do is we're going to see what's included in this text file that just randomly popped up on a remote server. So for realism, we had this run on like a system that we use quite a bit, like daily. So that way there's like actual information in here. That's why you see a lot of redacted blocks in there. But what we found was like RDP information that we use a lot for our home network, account details for like Adobe, GitHub, just like your normal stuff that you use. There was some Microsoft information in there, like an Xbox Live account that like I think I did years ago when I got the laptop. All that stuff was in there. These are just usernames. It's like that's half the battle, right? You get usernames, you get emails, then you can start building social engineering. So it's not like it's dumping out a username and password, but you've got valid emails in here that you personally use. This was my second favorite one. It had so we were able to enumerate like SMB shares that we have. So like storage units that you have at home, maybe or use in the cloud. Like it found those because it just kind of has that information, so you can auto log in the path. And then if you're familiar with NetSH and being able to grab Wi-Fi information, this one was pretty cool. I had to set up like a test Wi-Fi for this, but there's a demo down here to where I used a hotspot and just created like a BSides demo network, and then ran on that CMD screen a command that would pull the SSID and the plain text password to my Wi-Fi network that you see in the bottom red square there. So there's plenty of things that you could do with that CMD, whether it's like, or just those commands in general. You want to do some fancy PowerShell stuff or command line stuff. The possibilities are just endless at that point. Okay, so we did it. We went anywhere from learning how to build a mod to getting the calculator to pop, reverse shell, C2 beacon, whatever that multiplayer thing was at the end. And as I promised here, there's a QR code and a link. We went ahead and uploaded all of our slides here a little bit ago. So those are available for you at any point. And a quest would not be a quest without a quest reward. So we have some shiny stickers for you. You want to, if you would like some stickers. And while she's doing that, we can conclude and start taking some questions.
Yeah.
I wish you guys were earlier in the day. This is amazingly cool. You'd have got a lot more traffic. This was great.
If there's a feedback thing, maybe I don't know. Yeah. No, we would love that too. But thank you.
So when you're executing that code remotely, you're running under the context of the user that launched the Skyrim game.
Yes.
So if they're an admin on their machine, then you pretty much could do anything they could do.
Correct.
Couldn't you grab their web browser if they store their username information and just put all their passwords and all that in there?
So good point. I'm glad you brought this up because I started that enumeration piece as like maybe 3 or 4 lines. And then I was like, ooh, what if I do this? Ooh, what if I do this? And then I realized that like I had to cut this off because at one point it's like you're just enumerating a whole computer and network at this point. But the possibilities are just endless. So whatever like enumeration commands that you've seen before or whatever, absolutely. You can shove it in there, send it out to a remote host that's listening on a server or whatever. Absolutely. Yes, that's absolutely valid. Good question.
So now you'll be more aware of, okay, what mods am I actually downloading?
Well, I mean, that's a great point. I haven't played Skyrim in a long time, but when I had it running, I was using Vortex Mod Manager, and I couldn't even tell you how many mods I had running at once, right?
Yep,
So-
exactly.
And that,
I don't think I ever got the game running.
Mod it until it crashes?
Mod it till it crashed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good point because I mean now they have like collections, and now it's like, oh, I can get these 400 mods with like a click of a button. So it's kind of like a supply chain thing at this point, the way we look at it, because it's like, how hard would it be to have like one malicious mod in there that just does something like this?
Yeah.
And what's interesting when we thought about this some more, it's like this isn't something that's immediately obvious when we download the mod and run it. This is just chilling in the background until you hit like level 12 when the item spawns into the world. So even if you're like trying to check your mods immediately, I mean this could be hours before it even pops. Yeah. But
Did you check your like beacon mod against the virus scanner?
Yes, so it was not recognized.
oh, like Defender, something like
Windows
that.
Defender
The
did
one in
not
the
pick it up.
beginning where it was like the little virus scan safe.
So that was on a mod platform,
Yeah.
and we have not uploaded to that.
Well, I guess
If I'm answering your question, we did like it didn't catch locally with Defender. And no, we haven't uploaded to.
No.
Anywhere.
When you did the Skyrim together, couldn't you have done it where once the beacon was activated from any player that it grabbed everybody's info? Or you need to have it the one specific user ID connected to it?
Tricky part with that was we tried to do it that way, but the tricky part was you would have had to have Skyrim together kind of deliver it to all the clients, and it's something we wanted to go down as a pathway, but we ended up just having all the mods locally installed throughout, and it was able to kind of trigger. Yeah, I was able to trigger as you saw throughout
Right.
the 3. So we kind of explored that, and it kind of got into like a whole area of reverse engineering and all this stuff that maybe we didn't want to go that far. But I don't see why it wouldn't be possible. I think it would.
I think back to the days when like I played RuneScape or WoW and we were using like VoIP and your IP was in clear text when you're connected to the server. And I'm just thinking like it would be easy to just essentially ping it to the server and get the information that way and then send it out.
Yeah.
But obviously there's more nuances.
And it's like every time we had a little bit of an idea, we're like, oh, let's run with it. And then we're like, when do we stop with this? Because we're going to constantly be doing and doing. We're never going to get to other projects or other things that we want to get to. But so no, I love that. Like that's definitely cool. I think over time, like we would have just been going and going and going. Like we'll never be done with this. We'll be Skyrim hackers for the rest of our lives.
But this would apply to every game that has unofficial mods out there.
Yes.
I mean, there are tons of use where you can go up to the different mod platforms, install them. You could make a mod and tweak it slightly for each game.
I think what's unique about this one though is the way that the team produced the SKSC. They had to reverse engineer everything. So they have this separate platform that's specific to Skyrim. They have another one that's close with Fallout 4, but you're correct. However, there's a lot more effort that would go into another game to where you have to reverse engineer it.
Almost like learning a different language at that point.
Yeah.
Okay.
This one was interesting because they stood out to us because there's already that middle ground. So SKSE on one side and then C++ on the other side. And we were able to kind of merge those together and figure out how SKSE talks to the game and SKSE talks to C++. And just kind of bring those together.
Gotcha.
Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Otherwise, we would have to reverse
Baldur's
engineer.
Gate 3 has a script extender too. So
What does?
Baldur's Gate 3.
It's like your favorite
My
game.
favorite.
I didn't know that. Oh, there you go.
Well, there it goes. Next year.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
Okay.
Meridia doesn't want you.
Thank you for coming.